Welcome to Prosperity and Possibilities, the podcast where we help you recognize your possibilities and then give you ways that you can up-level your prosperity, which of course means increasing your prosperity and your joy. Today, I have with me Penny Chiasson, who is a wonderful, very effective person who I have had the pleasure of working with. Penny is the leading expert in reigniting the soulful joy in successful professionals and entrepreneurs so they can leave work at work and be present and fulfilled in their personal life. She's a retired nurse anesthetist, board certified hypnotist, and a #1 international best-selling author. Penny's professional life has been centered around serving others. Penny's built a referral-based global practice, and she's publicly and privately recommended by influencers and leaders in the transformational coaching world, and I do recommend her. She's amazing. Penny, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited you're here. Now, I do work with people to help them overcome money mindset blocks or different issues and just to recapture their joy in their life. And I have seen usually that works. Now, with me, I had a lot of other issues to unpack. And anyone who watches the initial video in this series will know what I'm talking about. But for certain people, we need a little extra bit just to get us that last, 5-10% over the line. Can you explain when people would be best served to reach out to someone like you, a hypnotherapist, when someone would be best served to reach out to a hypnotist?
Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned about having a lot to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to money and how we manage our money, how we spend our money, how we feel about money, what we think about money, and whether or not we use our money to soothe our feelings really boils down to our inner beliefs. And those inner beliefs come from stories, experiences, circumstances that we've had in our life, or it could simply come from witnessing patterns of behavior of our parents, right? And then, so even though we don't think of that as a belief, then that can become a belief of our model of reality of how things work.
And this affects us in our happiness as well, not just in our bank accounts.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the key thing is to identify, and this is what I believe you help people with, identify like what is actually happening with the money so that you can actually see the patterns. Like sometimes we have blind spots. People think of, distractions as things like cigarettes and overeating and Twinkies and ice cream and, a beer at night, or, even more destructive behaviors. But our spending habits, our saving habits, those can become that as well. But that's not always the case for everyone. So not everyone has the same issue. So you have to look at it and ask yourself, you help them get that 30,000-foot view of like what exactly is happening with the money. And then when you can see what's happening with the money, whether it's that it's not coming in or I can't hold on to it, then you can begin to ask yourself some questions like, what caused me to, this month spend, I don't know, 50% more discretionary spending than I normally spend? Like, what was happening in my life? What was I thinking? How did it make me feel after I spent the money? And, you and I have chatted about this before, might even ask, what did I think would happen if I didn't do this? And to begin to ask yourself these questions, and for every answer you get, ask yourself something like, well, how do I know that? Well, what caused me to feel that way, or to believe that way, or to think that? And to go several layers deep until you hit something that surprises you and you can feel it somewhere in your body. And it's like, ooh, That's it. And then you reframe it. So, for example, some people need to know that they're safe with money. I know that sounds crazy, but I have worked with people and I know that you're laughing, but I mean, trust me, no one
No,
is
I'm
unique
laughing
or
because I
alone.
agree. I totally agree.
No one is unique or alone with this. You can be safe with money, right?
Yes.
Some people perceive having wealth as being different, not being accepted by their friends, because maybe their friends and family have a very negative opinion of people who have wealth. Maybe before you went into business for yourself, you had a negative opinion of people with wealth. And if that's underneath the surface, you are going to push that wealth away. Right.
Exactly.
So then you have to
Exactly.
so then you just got to reframe it. You rewrite your stories. You're like, you know what? I am safe with money. And notice your pattern. And when you recognize the pattern, that awareness allows you to stop and to respond with a reframe. Now, if you've reframed it and you are consistently aware of your thoughts, aware of your habits, and you continue to reframe it, and this keeps slipping in the way, like you're reframing it, you're paying attention, and you keep slipping into this pattern, then it's time to reach out to someone and say, hey, there's something else going on here. I've done X, Y, and Z. It doesn't seem to be working. And then it's time to say, okay, what else is going on underneath the surface that is influencing your subconscious decisions? Because I want to, if I may, just put a
Mhm.
little bit of scientific fact behind
Oh, I'd
this.
love that. I love science.
So the Max Planck Institute did a study, and they were doing functional MRI, and they showed the study participant a set of two images, and they gave them a clicker. They could choose A or B or one or two. I don't remember what they labeled them, but they could make a choice between one of the two images. The scans that monitored the blood flow showed that the subconscious mind made the decision a full 7 seconds before the conscious mind activated to actually make a choice. Okay, so a
I've
full
seen
7
similar studies.
seconds. So
Yes.
your subconscious is driving that. And every good study is repeated. So the Australians repeated this study and they found that there was an 11-second lag.
That
So
seems really long.
it seems really long, but you have to consider, like, has anyone, you ever wanted to go out to dinner and someone said, well, which restaurant do you want to go to? And you're like, oh, let me think about it. Well, you're thinking about it, but your subconscious mind is
Already decided.
feeling into it. It's feeling into it, and it's going to decide before you make a conscious decision based on your emotions.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I also, a lot of people with this disconnect and not really knowing, I have seen it when, for example, somebody says that they're a saver and yet their money always seems to get spent. Or another way of just demonstrating the things you were saying is that you're constantly going out and buying things because you think it's going to make you happy. But you find out once you've got it, you don't think about it again. You never notice
Yeah.
it. You don't think about it.
Yeah. And it's not even about being hungry. So we can go through this cycle where when we have an emotion or experience that causes us to feel bad, if we don't recognize that it's an emotion, or we don't understand what's causing us to feel that way, in order to not feel bad anymore, we can distract away from it. And then sooner or later, we're going to feel bad again, and we're going to distract again. I have a lot of clients who tell me, oh, I don't feel my emotions. And I just smile and nod, because yes, you do. You're just not aware of it. Either you're too busy in processing and sorting things out, keeping yourself busy so you don't have time to sit with your emotions, or you're doing some other behavior. I mean, people recognize stress eating, stress drinking, stress smoking. I know none of those things are related to what we're doing, but our shopping can be a pressure release valve
Yeah.
on what we're feeling underneath.
Now, I'm going to speak to that as somebody who has been disconnected from her emotions and her feelings. And it does feel like you just shut off, like you can't access it. And it took working with you to really get past that. I mean, I did a lot of work on my own. We were at that last little bit, but it was so important. I mean, you can't go through as much as I did without
Mhm.
some help to get past it all.
Right. And the subconscious mind was actually, it can actually step in and protect us, because if our feelings are very uncomfortable, the
Mm-hmm.
mind recognizes that as being painful. And
Yes.
we don't want to be in pain.
Yeah.
So the way what it will do is we will have some experience where it's like, wait a minute, when I'm doing this, I don't feel bad anymore. So, when I work with a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, I mean, it doesn't matter what level of business, if it's 100,000 or 10 million, that you can get into overwhelm, procrastination, you can get into people pleasing. And because you're always so busy trying to take care of these things, you don't have the opportunity to feel yourself.
That reminds me of another point you shared with me before, that even people with seven-figure incomes can be broke. And
Mhm.
you mentioned, like, where you live in the Bible Belt, it's very common for people to give. Did you want to speak to that for a moment?
Um, sure. So, if we tend to be givers to take care of other people, so I have worked with people that have multi seven figure businesses, and personally they're broke because every time they seem to have money, culturally, to the extent that I'm speaking right now, this was a cultural accepted norm that you support extended family. So it's like every time there was enough, there was sending of money, bailing out cousins, uncles, however they would give, to the point they weren't taking care of themselves. And they were always in financial stress and distress. The same thing I see happens a lot in the South, that comes from, biblical teachings, where wealth has become associated with not being a good person, with being evil. And that's simply not true. So, but people have this notion, it's been drilled in their heads, that you're supposed, and I mean, we're supposed to be
Mhm.
charitable. We're supposed to tithe. We're supposed to be compassionate and help other people, but people take it to the extreme.
And
And
if you
they,
get rid of all of your wealth, you have nothing left to give. So the
yeah,
wealthy you are.
yeah, they get in this cycle where they make sure they have just enough, and they give everything else away. So then there's nothing to reinvest back in themselves.
And you mentioned one of your mentors had a little tip for that. The,
Yeah. So this tends to deal with the totality of us, our emotions, our mental capacity, our gifts, our talents, our time, which there is no such thing as time, but that's a story for another day,
yeah, I
and
agree.
money. So if someone walked up, if I had $1 and you walked up to me, Heather, and you said, you know what, Penny, I need gas in my car. Do you just have $1 and I'll go ask somebody else for $1 just so I can have enough to, put a couple of gallons in my tank to get home. Well, if I only have $1, I can't give you $1, because that leaves nothing for me. And not from a selfish way, but it leaves me with zero resources. So if I have $1, I can give you 50 cents. So his thing was never give more than half, because you always have to take care of yourself. It's like if you're on an airplane and there's an issue and the oxygen mask drop down, you're going to put your own mask on first before
Mhm.
someone else. So it's just about keeping resources for yourself.
And that is not just money, that applies to everything, like you said.
Yes.
Penny, this has been really valuable information. I hope people have a better idea of what we both do and how to reach out to either one of us. And it's hypnotists do, most people, if you say hypnotist, they think of a magic show and people barking like a dog or something.
Yeah.
So it's good to know for others that you do actually help unlock things that other means have not been able to get to. And I must say, it really was very valuable for me to work with you.
I
How
was
would you
happy
like
to be
people to
here.
reach? Oh, sorry.
I was like, I'm happy to be here.
Well, how would you like people to reach out to you if they want to know more, they want to work with you? What would you like?
Well, they can go to the website, pennychiasson.com. There you can sign up for a free subconscious blueprint call if you want to explore and see if this is even the right avenue for you, because some people just need to simply, there are some habits they need to put into place. I am not the person who reflexively always says, book a session, book a session, book a session. If it's something I think that you can take care of yourself and I can give you some tips, and then if that doesn't work, then hey, great. If you want to work together, I'm open to that. But yeah,
Yes, and I
it's
must
the
say,
way I roll.
yeah, she's definitely not a pressure sales gal. I wouldn't be around her if she was. So thank you, Penny. And I will put your contact information in the show notes or the description if you're watching this on YouTube. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All right. See you all next episode, everybody.